Good morning, everybody. Jared here at Sierra Sewing, Quilting, and Vacuums. And surprise, surprise, I'm all alone today. Miss Linda is off on vacation. How dare she? And Elaine is still out just on some surgery and hoping to come back soon. But Miss Linda will be back next week. So this week you get all about me, and I am going to teach you guys everything you need to know about one of my favorite accessories that every single person should own if they own a sewing machine. And that is walking feet. So today we're going to tell you all about walking feet from different brands across the board from, let's see, what do I have here? I have Baby Lock, Janome, Pfaff, Viking, and then I will be showing some pictures of Bernina as well too, and why walking feet are just one of the best things that you can absolutely use. Now, I know my setup is a little bit weird here, but that's so I can show you some stuff on my camera over here, some nice close-up action of everything going on. So let's just dive right into what is a walking foot. Now, I'm going to change my camera because we're going to be zoomed in a lot of the time here, okay? So I'm going to change over here, and we're going to be talking about walking feet. Now, walking feet come in many different shapes and sizes, but like I said, everybody should have one. And I should have opened this box before I started, because now, of course, you got to do it on camera and everything's just fumbling around. There we go. Alrighty, here we go. So I have here a Viking walking foot, a Baby Lock walking foot, a Janome walking foot, and then I will also be talking to you just about some other walking feet that are out there just with, like I said, Bernina, and what else do I not have here? I guess Pfaff, because Pfaff has technically not a walking foot. So we'll see. But let's just explain what exactly advances your sewing machine to begin with. And that is, I'm going to show you on this machine right here, and this just happens to be a Pfaff Passport. What actually advances your fabric are these little pieces of metal right here. So these notches, these cutouts that are right down here in your needle plate, that when I turn my hand wheel, I know I'm pretty far away here. Good morning, Lucienne. I know I'm pretty far away here. Maybe I can hold this up and do this. There we go. Those walking feet actually move to advance your fabric. So what actually happens when you're advancing your fabric, these feed dogs will raise and press against your presser foot that is sitting on top of your fabric, just like this, right? Press against that presser foot, and then these feed dogs move to the back by gripping your fabric and actually pulling the stuff with it as well too. And then they drop down below the level of our needle plate here, and then they move back to the front, and the process starts all over again. Raises up, pressure, moves back, so on and so forth, okay? Now, those change. That's how your stitch width, and good morning, Patty. That's how your stitch width, or not your stitch width, your stitch length changes as well too. Because if you increase your stitch length, those feed dogs, let me pull this back up again, are going to travel a further distance while above the needle plate. If you do a shorter stitch, they are going to travel a shorter distance while above the needle plate. So that way they have either more or less travel while in contact with your fabric, right? Now, that works wonderful if we're sewing on 1, 2 pieces of fabric, something like that, right? However, once we get to have more pieces of fabric, we start to run into some issues. Think of it like if you had a stack of paper, a ream of paper, and you just stick your hand just right on top of it, and you just pull. You're probably only going to be pulling the first 2, 3 pieces of paper, whereas the whole rest of that stack is going to stay completely still, right? However, if I had my hand on the bottom of the ream of paper and my hand on top of the ream of paper and I pulled, now that whole ream of paper is going to move with me. Now, surprise, surprise, that is exactly what a walking foot does, okay? So here we have a walking foot, and all you do is you put it on the machine to replace your regular presser foot, and it adds in this whole second set of feed dogs on top of your fabric. So now, when we are sewing along, your feed dogs are going to make contact from the bottom of the machine and from the top with this walking foot. So now we're going to have that same pressure like we just talked about with a ream of paper on your fabric and grab it and pull it along, right? Now it's super beneficial when we're talking about quilting, any kind of heavier fabric sewing, Minky, because Minky just, the two layers by themselves are slick on each other. They just like to shift on each other. So a walking foot is a huge piece that you should absolutely have in your foot book, basically, right? Now, I'm gonna talk about some different brands of feet that are out there, okay? Now, this one is the two that I was talking about here. This one is just a walking foot from Husqvarna Viking. Fits most of their machines. As you go up to some of their higher end machines, they have actually what they call an integrated dual feed. And we're gonna talk about that on FOF as well too. But for their midlines and lower, you would use this walking foot. Now this walking foot's nice because inside of the box comes with a couple different feet. We have this guy here, got this guy for a straight stitch, this guy for a zigzag. So some various feet. Comes with some nice quilting bars that makes it easier to line up for various quilting, like stitch in the ditch or just straight line quilting. Not so much straight in the ditch actually, but just straight line quilting. Then with Baby Lock, same thing, same setup. We have just a walking foot. This does not change on this particular foot, but going up the line, there's some other various walking feet, like one that has a rubber conveyor belt instead of just a feed dogs that come along. That one does have some different feet on there. But one downside, in my opinion, of these walking feet is that you can't get a 1/4 inch from Viking and this particular Baby Lock walking foot as well too. Right, so if you guys know what a 1/4 inch is, hopefully all of you do, but if you do not, that is your golden standard must do in all quilting, right? So a 1/4 inch means on this foot, from this center position to the side of my foot right here, I have a 1/4 inch. So when I am stitching along on my fabric, I'm gonna line up my fabric with the side of my foot here, and then my stitch line, as long as it's in the center of my hole here, is going to be at a 1/4 inch. And now that's very important because all patterns are, at least in the US, all patterns are written with a 1/4 inch seam allowance in quilting, right? In sewing, I think it's 5/8, I believe it is. Could be wrong on that. If I'm wrong on that, somebody correct me there. But everything is made with that 1/4 inch seam allowance. So you must have that in order for things to match up and work, right? Now that's the downside of walking feet with at least this particular Baby Lock and this Viking foot. But that's when we get into some other walking feet. Now this one here is Jannomi's. Janome, this particular foot starts at, let's say 6700 has it. I know the S7 has it. I don't believe the S5 Skyline has it, but kind of going from your midlines up, they have what we call the HP2 foot, okay? Now this one looks a little bit different because it just has a much smaller, Janome does have walking feet like this, okay? But this is their solve for that 1/4 inch problem. Now, this is a much smaller foot and a much smaller walking foot, but reality is, it's like I said, they made this for 1/4 inch piecing. So 2 inches, or not 2 inches, 2 pieces of fabric just right on top of each other to allow you to have really good traction going along on that. And that's really beneficial because I don't know if any of you guys have ever quilted large blocks or jelly rolls maybe, you know, where you do a really long stretch of fabric and at the end of it, they don't match up quite perfectly or one's a little puckered and the other one's not. That's why you want a walking foot. So this HP2 foot is really cool because we now have a 1/4 inch with a walking foot. So when my needle is in center of this foot, I have a 1/4 inch going, where's my camera? There it is, going from this position to the edge of my feet on either side. And that's really nice because now I have the walking foot, so I get that really nice, even, perfect feed all the way across all of my piecing. That's a really big deal. I love that feature on Janome. And they also use this in conjunction with the HP plate that Janome makes, which is really cool because it puts that needle into a left needle position. And it also does a straight stitch plate. So single hole straight stitch plate, which is really great to prevent your fabric from being eaten by the machine, just getting stuck down inside of that needle plate hole. And also left needle is awesome because the mechanics of a sewing machine, you get the best stitch in left needle position. So using that HP plate and this HP foot, Janome makes a really good 1/4 inch seam. Just saying, throwing that out there. Then I want to get into some of the other technology that is out there. Like for example, with Pfaff, one of Pfaff's claim to fame for the last 150 years, 170 years, is what we call the IDT, which is this black piece right here. It actually has this printed on here also. So unfortunately, Pfaff has lost their patent on it. They allowed it to expire, which has allowed other machines to come out and kind of mimic it, which we will talk about with Bernina as well too as we go along here. So this IDT is an amazing piece of technology. Now, walking feet have always been kind of cumbersome because we would have to take off the entire ankle of your sewing machine, put this on, get this little fork around your needle clamp, and then you got to stick your tongue out and hold it at the right direction while breathing in the correct pattern just to get everything lined up and get your screw back in, right? Take a new beginner, it'd probably take you 5-10 minutes just to get this walking foot on and figure it out. Now Pfaff, with this IDT, I'll get it in the right angle here, walking foot on, walking foot off. Walking foot on, walking foot off. It's that simple. Super nice because with it being built in, Pfaff has almost every single foot out there that is capable to use with an IDT, which is really cool because not just your 1/4 inch foot, it includes all your fancy stitch feet, tons, cording feet, everything of the sort, allows you to use that walking foot. I mean, think of how many feet every single brand of sewing machine has. Pfaff can use this IDT, this walking foot, on nearly every single one of them. That is a huge game changer in Pfaff's book, right? So just so you guys see why, the difference is this one here is I have Pfaff's walking foot, or 1/4 inch foot, right here, this more dull silver one. And then over on the left-hand side here, I have Baby Lock's walking foot, not 1/4 inch foot, sorry, the more shiny one. Now the difference that you guys see here is on the Pfaff, we have this cutout in the back of it that allows for that walking foot, that IDT, to slide inside of there, grab that fabric and slide it back, right? So that's why Pfaff has this, and it's super nice because all they have to do on their feet is make this little cutout in here, and now you can use the IDT on that foot. It's amazing. So like I said, you can put almost every foot Pfaff has an IDT cutout to be able to use on that. So it's a huge game changer for that. It's almost kind of like having that HP foot, but in my opinion, just a little bit better because it's just built in the machine and you can use it on basically every single foot. Now, let's talk about, so the higher end Vikings as well do have that built in to, like if we're talking the Epics, and I believe the new Brilliances have this built in as well too, okay? Now, let's talk about Bernina, because Bernina actually has a very similar setup to Pfaff and those higher end Vikings as well too. Now, I don't have a Bernina here with me. We do have them on the floor in Carson City, but unfortunately I'm up here in Reno and I just do not have one with me at the moment. So let's just show this. This is Bernina's dual feed. This is their integrated dual feed. And you can see here, it's a very similar setup to how Pfaff does it. So this is showing on the left-hand side, it is showing that this is engaged. And on the right-hand side, it is showing it disengaged. Now, of course, the foot is off as well too, but it just shows, you can see the height off of the needle plate on the right-hand side is a lot higher. So disengaged over there. So very similar setup to what we have with the Pfaffs, where all you have to do is just pull it down and forward and it engages, and then pull it down and backwards and it disengages. Now this is very cool because with their feet, you can do the same thing. Now this is just a regular 1/4-inch foot from Bernina, but you can see that there's no cutout on the back of it, whereas this guy, we do. So this is, Bernina's 1/4-inch foot is the number 57, the patchwork foot. So you guys can see the difference here. Same foot, 57D, which you see up there on the top, and 57, which you see right there. Now the D stands for that dual feed, basically. So any Bernina foot that has that D at the end of the number allows you to use that dual feed. Very similar to what we talked about just now in FOF. So unfortunately with FOF losing that patent, everybody's kind of come out with it, and it's really, because it's a nice feature to have. So talking about this again, we have that dual feed cut out in the middle of that foot that allows you to use it all the time. And Bernina, they've got hundreds, not hundreds, but close over 100 feet, different feet that are out there. And like I said, any foot that is there that has this D that you see up there towards the top of the screen allows you to use that dual feed. So any kind of particular specialty feet, anything of that sort is allowable to use with that dual feed with, if you have that D on the foot, I guess. So just moving on here, this is, those dual feed feet are huge. A walking foot is an amazing piece to have in your bag because it just gives you a lot cleaner stitching on any of those heavier fabrics, any kind of quilting, anything of the sort. They are worth every single penny. They are not the cheapest accessory, I'll admit that, but they are worth every single penny that you can spend on them. So with that being said, I can't possibly put every single option of walking feet that we have on sale at the moment. It would have just taken too long for me to put those all up there. So if you need a walking foot, just give us a call. Our phone number is down at the bottom of the screen within the next week, and I will give you 15% off of any of walking feet applicable to your machine. And that does have to be walking feet. So like this HP foot does count. However, like with FOF and Bernina, they have that integrated dual feed. Well, not all Berninas, we'll talk about that in a second. That have that integrated dual feed, it's already built into there. But if you need a regular walking foot, get that 15% off on it as well too. So Bernina, back to that one, it's not on every single machine. It's, let's see, in the 5 series, the 4 series does not have it, the 3 series does not have it. The 5 series, when we're talking 535, does not have it. 570 and 590 do have it. And then going to the 7 series, 740 is not one that we carry in store, but anything below 740 does not have it, and anything 740 and above does have it. So 770, 740, 790, and then of course the 990 has it built in as well too. So really, really nice features on those machines. So if you're looking for your next machine, that is absolutely something that you should look into, is what walking feet capability does it have, right? Jannomi's HP foot, I absolutely love. Those integrated dual feeds, I absolutely love. And I don't mean to hate on the regular walking feet because they still do amazing, but you just can't do everything with them like you can on some of these other brands. It makes it really nice and easy to use those. So that is everything that I have for you guys this week. Short and sweet for y'all. Just a little knowledge for all of you to chew on for the next week. But other than that, Linda will be back next week, so we'll be excited to have some more new fabrics and new quilts and other stuff to get a hold of. And then other than that, if you have any questions, give us a phone call down at the bottom of the screen. Don't hesitate to take advantage of that sale on those walking feet because they're worth every single penny. Other than that, thank you guys so much, and I will see you all next week. Have a good one. Bye.